Hi, fellow refiners, and no, you have not gone crazy. Yes, this is a new severed section of the We Needed Roads podcast. But how, I hear you ask, when there are no new episodes? Well, with Cold Harbour being such an epic episode, we really didn't have time to get into our highlights of the season and what our predictions for season 3 are going to be. So, welcome to the final episode of the severed section of the We Needed Roads podcast for season 2. And I'm joined mournfully for the last time by my fellow refiners from the W&R department, Marie S. and Jose Al. Marie, how are you coping?
I'm doing well, because the advantage of being an Innie, we will be just here for season 3. We don't have to wait.
That's true.
I hate to be my Audi right now.
Yeah, it's only been a day since we've last seen you guys, so
It's been 8 hours, 12 hours, however long the shift day is.
yesterday. We spoke yesterday.
Look at the
We're
clock on the
always
wall
here.
behind you, Jose. That was the same time.
You're
We
right.
always are here. We never leave. Send help.
Never leave. Send help. Send help and send baked goods. I think we can all agree this is the best show we've seen this year so far, because it's the only show we've ever done a weekly spoiler special on for the podcast. We're just like, no, we need to talk about this. Oh, let's just do a short episode, 18, 20 minutes, that'll be fine, which is what we did on the first episode. And then somehow
Was it really
we're up
that
to
short?
the first
Wow.
episode was 18 minutes, Jose. 18.
Oh, that is...
And I was like, this is fine. This is going to work. This is not going to take over my life for the next 2.5 months. And of course, we
Ooh,
got
feel
that
sorry
wrong,
for
didn't
your
we?
Audi who was editing that.
Right?
Man.
Yeah, poor bastard. So, first question is, was it a perfect season of TV? Marie?
Yes and no. I generally wouldn't call the season perfect for one reason, and that is the reintegration storyline. Because they just played fast and loose with the rules, and it just didn't make sense. Like, you get reintegrated first when you have the wire coat hanger thingy-mabob wave above your head. Then you're starting to get reintegrated, and you take shots that look like gone off breast milk. But then, no, you can complete the reintegration process if we drill a hole in your head. No, that still didn't do it, because then when he's talking to his Innie, he's like, oh, well, complete the process. But I thought, but you already completed the process. So that, was the only, my only, little bit, qualm of the series. Is that a word? That's a word, right?
Qualm.
Yeah.
Yeah, qualm's
okay.
a word.
It was
Wasn't
used
sure.
appropriately.
I'm smart. Anyway, yeah, that was my only qualm of the series. Because it bothered me because it was just inconsistent and they were playing fast and loose with the rules.
Jose, was it a perfect season in your opinion?
Funny enough, I wasn't sure until just recently. I think it actually was, and here's why I'm going to say it was, because I didn't notice the inconsistencies. I think
You're not me.
I mean, they're valid points, but I think what the point of a show is to keep you entertained.
Mhm.
And I'm sure they're going to address it in later on, which is what we're going to talk about. But I feel like the show just progressed nicely, and yeah, there's going to be some inconsistencies, but I think even the best of shows occasionally have inconsistencies that they come back to later on. And I feel like this season, it's a show with what, 8 episodes or 10 episodes? I can't remember.
10.
So yeah, that's a very limited run compared to what some shows had in the past with 22 episodes per season. So there's only so much you can do in a short amount of time. And I was entertained in every episode, even the one with Cobell and her backstory, because it included information. It wasn't just a filler episode with a fly trying to be swatted. But yeah, so I think that's what it comes down to. Yeah, I was just genuinely entertained every episode.
I wouldn't say it was a perfect season. It's very close. It's a 9.5 out of 10, I reckon, probably for me. And I don't have the problem Marie had with inconsistencies, but for me, it didn't bother me when I watched it. I didn't think there was a bad episode, and I thought it built up and got better and better. I mean, I think as great as season 1 was, this was head and shoulders above it in terms of developing the characters, the arcs, and the stories, but also answering enough of the questions to keep you not thinking that they're making up as they go along, but also at the same time, it would let you kind of give you enough answers to keep you happy and go, oh, brilliant. Having the 2 bottle episodes back to back, Chicky Bardo and Cabell's episode. It didn't bother me because they were both great episodes. I mean, Gemma's one was standout in terms of cinematography and giving us answers finally for what they're kind of doing and all that kind of stuff. I have seen some people kind of complain that Cabell's wasn't needed and it could have just been a couple of scenes in an episode.
They're so wrong. Like, because we got so many answers in that episode, and not just
Yeah,
answers, but backstory.
because before this, she was just weird, angry lady who was
Yeah.
scary.
And we didn't really know her agenda and because I kept saying, like, what is her agenda? Why is she doing this? And now it, like, she makes more sense. Like, because it wasn't even a long episode. So it
No, it's the
was,
shortest one of the
yeah,
season.
it's the shortest one we got. And I think it was really good. I think it was also nice to not see, like, be outside of Lumen and not be in Kier, and actually see a bit more of this, like, fictionalized world that they have there.
And a beautiful Newfoundland.
Yes, wanting us all to go to Newfoundland. I agree with you guys. There wasn't a single episode where I thought that wasn't good. And
No.
I actually disagree, because when they returned from the bottle episode, it was like, oh, my family's back. It's like it was happy. So yeah,
Yeah.
that did not bother me at all. But I'm always someone who, like, focuses on plot inconsistencies because I'm an insomniac and just can't sleep. It just, this is the stuff that goes through my head constantly, where I was
Yeah.
just like, but that didn't make sense.
Well, here's a big one for you. Moving on to Mark has obviously killed Drummond now, and he's ruined Cold Harbor for the Egans by freeing Gemma. So really, his Innie should be absolutely fired slash killed immediately as soon as they catch him. But I can't see that happening. What do you think's going to happen with Mark?
I don't think I'm, like, obviously not going to be able to predict the entire season. So I'm just going to attempt to predict the first episode. And I think it's going to start with a hostage situation where basically all the Innies have taken over Lumen and are refusing to leave, and holding their Audi's bodies hostage. So I think that's how it's going to, like, kick off. I don't think it's going to stay that way.
All of the Innies?
Yeah,
All
because
the ones
you
we've
had the
seen.
band CNM rebelling against Milchek at the end. I mean, M&D are, like, right there with them as well because they're pissed that Irv left. So I think it's quite easy. The goat people committed murder, so I think they're all on the side, and they're all fed up. And I think they're just going to refuse to leave.
Couldn't they just Glasgow block everyone and say, "Oh
That
yeah, you need to
see,
leave"?
that's that. I did think about that. That is a very good point. But if they don't have access to the control room,
Hmm.
Hmm.
like, which we don't
Okay.
actually know. We actually don't know where the new control room is, because
No.
it's the family room is there, so it is might be out of Lumen. How many prediction? I'm not saying this is what's going to happen, but I feel like this is a logical step that Mark is just going to refuse to leave.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Because if they leave, they're dead. If you know, yeah.
Exactly.
Jose, thoughts on Mark?
It's
What's he
hard to
gonna?
say what's going to happen immediately because, it's one of those unique things that writers can do many things. Like, okay, they're stuck in the floor, they're running through the hallways. Where do they go? And so maybe they just run around, they find a room, and they kind of
Share
hold out for a
vessels.
little while. No, maybe.
There was a lot of sharing vessels in this season. I mean, there was none in
Comparatively,
season
yes.
one, and this season they kind of upped the ante on the sexy time.
They're
Yeah.
horny teenagers in terms of being innies now.
I'd say the first episode, if anything, is going to be the entire time of them trying to figure out what to do,
Mhm.
and then it moves on from there.
But
Like, so
that would be the obvious thing to do, wouldn't it? I know you know they don't like doing the obvious things straight away.
Mhm.
true. I mean, in terms of the first episode of season two, the first thing he does is run to Gemma's room as Miss Casey.
Mhm.
So, like, that was the obvious thing to do. Well, I mean, for some people, but I here's the thing about the show that I think they do well is they make it interesting and crazy, but they don't go overboard. I
Yeah.
mean,
I got a
granted, the
theory.
band.
Someone's
It's the
just come to
bunnies.
me. It's not bunnies. What if you know they had all the other controls like Glasgow Block and all that stuff? What about reset? What if they just reset everyone in there? So then
Yeah.
you've got all the innies don't
Mm,
know what they know about the outers, and
yes.
Gemma, Devon, and Cabell have to try and get through to them again and try and break the
Yes,
severance in
Yeah.
reverse.
I
That could
like that.
happen. What I'm worried about that is that like in a way that could be repetitive, but like it's like it could be well done. I mean, there's one show, and I'm sorry I'm going to spoil this for you guys because it's been out for a while, but The Good Place did this really well, where they reset the characters every single time in
Oh
season
yeah.
Yeah,
two, and
I
it
got
didn't
far enough
get
just to know
that.
about that.
What?
I got just far enough to know about that in the show. I
Yeah.
haven't finished it, but it looked really good.
I haven't finished The Good Place. The Good Place is great. At least my Audi
I
tells me. It's like one of the best shows ever.
my
Anyway,
Audi watched 2 seasons with my brother-in-law, and then we just our schedules never lined up after that.
But it has evil Mark in it
yeah,
as
it's
well.
so good. Like,
What?
yeah,
Oh man, that's
he's
awesome.
in it.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
But
Playing a douchebag.
I
yeah,
wouldn't be surprised though if to reset it requires a little bit extra of work, and that's why they don't do it often. Because you have to
yeah,
retrain
true.
everyone,
They
and
would because
If they get a full-on insurrection in their hands and everyone's refusing to leave, they're going to have
then
to
it
do
might
something
be
bigger.
worth the work.
yeah.
However, resetting Mark after she's alive may have not been worth it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that might have been a bit of a mistake. So, next I want to mention with creepy James' veiled comments to Helly about seeing the fire of Keir in her, I think there could be a pivot to Helena now being the most important person within the story, and that Mark's connection to her will actually is what will keep him alive. We're assuming that Gemma's going to get out of the building at least, past security, and somewhere out into Keir, in the town of Keir, hopefully. So if Gemma's out, I think James is going to move his focus to Helly/Helena now,
Hmm.
and that's how you keep her and Mark's relationship as a central plot to the season. But of course, we need to kind of do something. We almost need to have his outie seen as sympathetic, but we didn't. His outie was mostly a dick a lot of the time. So
Yeah.
it's why would people root for him to get back with his wife? He's freed her now. So yeah, it's an interesting one.
To counter, it's like the whole series has been about Gemma and Mark, but Mark's the focus. I think this actually might focus on Gemma doing what Mark just did, and has
Trying to get him
Mark's
out.
just
Yeah, but it's a bit
yeah, Mark
repetitive, like
Mark.
Marie said.
Yeah.
But I mean, it may not be the big focus, but I think it's going to be a big part of it. Like Helena is kind of on the fence in terms of is she going to be for any Mark, or is she just trying to be her own person, or is she going to follow in her father's footsteps, even though things just seem a little weird. Like, is Helena actually on board with the Innies, or is she just trying to be rebellious towards her father in her small way?
Well, we don't know
Uh,
yet what.
we don't. I mean, she is. I don't. I don't think she's rebellious towards her father. She's just because she's desperate for that man's approval. Like she is desperate for that. So I think like she's probably going to try and depose him. I mean, he has one foot in the grave already. I mean, the man, like
And the painting.
the painting.
Yeah, the Exalted Victory of Cold Harbor painting, who is stood front and center at the top of the world's tallest waterfall. It's Helena.
Yeah, but she does already run Lumen. It's just
Well, no, Jane runs it, surely, doesn't he, at the minute?
no, I think
Officially,
she runs it because she tells Mark like I'm like head of the company.
she
I
tells him
guess
that.
he's
But
like Uber,
well, is he still CEO though?
or head of the cults, as we say.
I feel like because Gemma could still meet out Mystical Bell and Mark's sister outside if she decides
I
to finally
really
walk
hope they
away.
just did do that. Like I hope that Devin is waiting outside in a car. They had the
Hmm.
Devin and Cobell waiting outside in a car. Otherwise, she's a little bit screwed. Like she's
Yeah.
a little
Yeah.
bit fucked.
So here's the overall arch where I think they're still important because Lumen purposely chose her and Mark. Well, okay, Mark actually ended up working for them by I don't know if that was coincidence or if he was influenced, but
And we've
Lumen
not really seen that yet, have we? We haven't
yeah,
seen how on the early bits of that yet.
we haven't seen that, but Lumen definitely picked Gemma for a reason,
Yeah,
and they've convinced her to do this without telling Mark, making everyone think she passed away, and they lied to her. So there's got to be a reason. They
they're
are there.
important.
So that's why I think that they will still be a large part of the storyline. Obviously, I think there is a more opportunity to shift gears. I think Irv is going to be a part of the storyline in terms of like knowing his background, because there's so much we don't know about Irv.
Do we give any credence to the pregnancy theory that was
Which
kind
you
of
were
muted?
like insisting on
The
for like
ankle shot,
three.
the ankle shot. David, to be fair, as
You were
well.
the one.
Where is David?
No, David like confirmed that women's ankles don't swell after one boink and one roll. Like it's physically impossible. I really hope not. As I said, I
Babies on shows now.
I think it's one of those things where the timeline just goes too slow. I think we've only really seen what 1 month in the timeline of these people, because
Yeah, but they got
maybe
creepy ass doctors here, Jose. We don't know what they're doing down in the labs.
yeah.
And again,
So
this brings us back to one of the other points actually, where we're so focused on okay, they're putting all their eggs in a basket for Gemma and her relationship with Mark to make this unbreakable severance. But as we said in the last episode, what files were everyone else working on? How many times has this failed in the past? So there's got to be rooms after rooms after rooms of
yes,
other refiners and other people we haven't seen doing the same experiment on other people. So
yeah.
there's a big field to open out the whole show a lot bit wider.
It goes back to season 1 when Petey was talking to Mark, and he says there are people that
Live
live
here.
down there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And Helena Goat Tarf said that she asked like how many more she should sacrifice because it's
Yeah.
kind of like evident that each person who dies gets buried with a goat. So when they're done with them, they
yeah,
kill them. So if there has been more goat sacrifices, there has been more people sacrifices. So
yeah.
A lot by the sound of things.
And then how many security guards are there?
Will Gemma actually escape? I feel like she has to, because to go through all of
yeah.
that trauma, you can't just have her get to like the lobby and security go, "Hey, get back down there."
Yeah. Who are you?
Yeah,
Blood covered, disorientated,
yeah.
traumatized woman, get back down.
Actually, was
Anyone?
she blood covered, or is it
Well,
just
she
Mark?
hugged Mark, didn't she? So
Yeah,
she
yeah.
had,
So she
Fair.
has like a bit of residual blood on her. Yeah.
yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's why I really hope that Cobell and Gemma are waiting in the parking lot. Like,
Perhaps that's the
hopefully,
start. That's the
yeah,
start of the next episode. It's like
Hmm.
yeah,
Beastie Boys sabotage style with Cabell and Devon coming into the lobby and creating some kind of scene to get Gemma.
She is at the staircase that doesn't go straight up towards the security guard, so it's definitely possible she bypasses all of that.
yeah.
And again, there's still the rest of the building to get at. And then once she's out of the building, she's still in the town of Kia.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Town
mean,
of
like
Kia.
my next note I wrote when I was thinking about it is like, or she could just be recaptured and reset, and that would totally suck.
Yeah, but I kind of agree with you, like going through all that trauma and then having basically like a repeat. That would be like even story-wise, that would be a bit boring.
Yeah, it's too much of a repeat. And like, I think what we want then, we want her to join up with Devon and Cabell
Yeah.
and some kind of plan. But I suppose the plan is to get Mark out. But
Hmm.
again, it's kind of well, that's just what you've been spent a season trying to do to get her out.
Yeah.
That's the obvious route. I'm hoping they don't do that. They got something much
They
cleverer
won't.
than us.
They will. They're. I mean, they're a
Much
lot
cleverer.
smarter. They. Yeah.
These guys are good. These guys are good.
Yeah. So next, I want to talk about everyone's favorite floor manager. It's Seth Milchick. What
Yes.
next for Seth? Because he has clearly been a terrible manager. He's had attempted murders and now an actual murder on his watch. Twice he's been locked in a room by Dylan and told "fuck you" by Dylan as well. Earlier in the season with him, I kept calling it, and I'm still going to call it. Milchick will turn at some point, but not for the reasons we maybe think. I think he's such a Lumen zealot that he just wants to move up the ladder.
Hmm.
Mhm.
And I feel like it was Drummond he had the issue with more. And with Drummond being out of the picture now, I think that clears his way. But then again, you've still got the inherently racist shit that Lumen have been putting on him.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just kind of thinking, where does he go next? Does he finally just snap at one point?
I don't think it'll be a snap. They've done such a good job of slowly showing him
Do
as
you think
not.
he's going to turn, Jose?
Well,
I
he's
think-
definitely fired.
Well, none of his is like he was doing a performance. He can't control them, and
Well, this is the second time he's been attacked during a performance as well. I kind of seeing if I was
Yeah.
his boss, there's like a pattern of behavior here.
Yeah, it's like, Seth, no more musical dance experiences or choreography in the mirror, because every time you get locked in a bathroom by Dylan or locked in a room by Dylan and shouted at.
Mhm.
I think somehow he finds a way to get either repositioned or that he keeps his job because he's too popular to be fired.
Yeah, oh,
And
yeah.
I don't see him as someone who just leaves the company because he knows too much. He's not severed, and I think what we all want is a Milchick focused backstory episode,
Oh, yeah.
and that may or may not come halfway through. But I think that he's one of those that there's a reason he's so loyal, especially after all that's happened. He's the guy that goes around fixing things outside of work too, even though he shouldn't have to. I think he's just a very, very loyal employee who sees the cracks but believes in the story that he's given, you know? So I mean, I think he might end up actually taking advantage of Drummond being gone and actually finding a way to use that to his advantage in terms of staying in the company. So
Yeah, it could be all the stuff that happens in Cold Harbor that because he's aware of it, that is enough to so that they can't fire him.
Hmm. As I do agree with Jose because he has like his hand in every single cookie jar, so he probably has dirt on Lumen. But I also agree with you, Neil, mainly because I think I said it a couple of episodes before that he is gunning for becoming the head of the snake. But I still think they're gonna attempt to fire him. I wanna like have season three just open with like milkshakes tied to a chair, like with a tuba or something like that. That just like completely defeat it.
Well, because it's funny because in the finale he has that look when he's in the
he's getting ready to
bathroom
be,
looking defeat. No, but there's that
Yeah,
shot he looks defeated
in the
when the alarm's
mirror.
going off and he just looks. But then when he gets out, like you said, he's like a fucking prowling panther when he's
yeah,
on that
he's ready
thing.
to
He looks
fight.
he looks absolutely fucking
I think
scary as shit in it, man.
I feel like Dylan will bite him again.
I was about to
Like
say it'd be funny if he attacked one of the band members and bit them, and then Dylan goes, "Hey, he's biting him." That no, that's too cheesy.
I see him getting like hit in the head with a tuba or something like that. A
yeah.
trombone, I
Do we
think.
think as well something will develop, not romantically, but just in terms of progressing his disquiet with the company more? Because the only time we've kind of seen it with other characters in him is with Natalie when he's kind of questioned her because she's the only other person of
Yeah.
color at Lumen that we've seen. So, is there going to be any development of that storyline?
I think Natalie has a huge backstory that we're gonna find as well. Because why is she so like stoic whenever he asks her serious
Well, she looks
questions? And
terrified. It's the in the eyes, man. She is
hmm,
so. But why is she so terrified?
Yeah,
That's
I
what we
mean,
want to
in
know.
terms of character, I kind of rate her as Drummond, where you're like, she's more of a pawn in the game, and I don't think we're gonna learn much about her. She's there when she's
hmm.
there. I mean, as I said, the show like can highlight like side characters, but it's just like she's like the mouthpiece of the board, and I don't think she would like turn on them at all. She didn't have the same reaction to the paintings that Milkshake did. I mean, she did have that look in her eyes. Again,
Yeah, yeah.
the eye acting. Give awards to the eye acting.
All the
Yes.
Uh,
awards.
but where she was like, dude, I know this is fucked up as well. But then she still stayed at the company and didn't question anything that happened afterwards.
But we're not 100% sure on what her role really is. We know she's like the connection to the board, but everyone thought, oh, is she severed as well? But then we saw it out with Rickon.
Hmm.
So,
For me, what sells me as her being important is she was at the season one final episode. She was at the award ceremony.
Yeah.
So not just anyone shows up to that, and she is definitely part of the group that knows more than they lead on.
Hmm.
That's what
hmm.
tells me something is going on with her. She's not just a face. She's not just a voice for the whoever's in her ear for the board.
But the
So I
AI,
think there's something there. Maybe not an entire episode, but we're definitely going to find more to her.
maybe by season four. So with Milchek, what I think is going to happen is he pretends to help the Innies to fight back against Lumen, but he's
Hmm.
only doing it to fuck them over, to prove himself to Lumen because he's a true believer. So we get that moment when we're like, yes, yes, Milchek, we're on side. And then we find out, because he's always been full of bullshit
Yeah,
from day
I don't
one.
believe a word that that man says. Tallest waterfall, my ass. Like, but I don't think they're gonna trust him as well. Like,
Yeah.
he just lies so easily, and then keeps that perfect smile on his
But
face.
he's that good, but if he's that good at lying, he might be that good at lying to convince them that he's on their side now.
I think
Or they could
he,
fire him. They could actually fire him
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And then he like doesn't leave the building and like runs off with the resistance or the Innie resistance, whatever it is. But he's still doing it to he hasn't actually been fired. He's doing or he has been, but he's still gonna betray them just to get his job back.
so I don't think they're going to fire him because that's the Cobell route. They fired Cobell. She's trying to get back at the company. I think he stays, and what ends up happening is he works his way on either side to figure
Up the
out
snake.
up the snake, and he just his goal is to become a higher position in the company. And so maybe at the end when they're gonna about to like actually destroy the company, that's when he shows that he's really is the bad guy. I think he's just so good at faking nice that that's why we like him, and that's why we want him to turn. But I actually, the more I think about it, I don't think he's ever going to turn. We just want him to turn.
So Jose, you think he's going to fully go uber evil overlord Milchick?
Mhm.
I wouldn't say uber evil, but I think he's going to stay loyal to the company for his own personal gain. And
Hmm.
I think he may not be uber evil, but I definitely think he'll play the innies in a way to where if he does see an
Remember when he
opportunity,
stopped Gemma escaping from the torture? Dude's evil.
Yeah, and did it with such a nice smile.
I think he's just evil, honestly. Like
Yeah.
he's a company man.
Evil
Yeah.
milkshake. What next for Harmony Cabell? What is her connection to Mark? And what's that line, the last line she says to him in the finale? I care for you. But she's said with more emotion than she's ever done. What is this connection between her and Mark? Because they hinted at it loads in season one, not so much in season
Hmm.
two. But
Yeah.
we still don't know why, what this connection is.
I think that's a mystery that we hopefully see. Cause because I remember rewatching season one, and there is a part where she's like genuinely worried for him when she's next door to his house. And you're like, what? It's like you're his boss. I feel like there is more to that. Like there's so much more under the surface that we haven't even seen, and that's why I think the show's so good. Is we've gotten answers, but then there's still so many unanswered questions.
Any ideas, Marie? Cabell, next plan after breaking out Gemma with Devon?
Oh, I mean, it's Cobell is so hard to pin down because like I didn't guess anything about her this season. Now like her motivation is clear, but yeah, I do agree with you. It shows that she has a deeper connection with Mark. Like now that we know that she invented Severance, because I always read it like that she's like testing the limits of her invention. But there are just like so many moments like in episode 1 where Mark asks for a handshake. She just genuinely looks surprised by that moment, and it's just such a weird reaction. Like it shows that it has history there. I do think this may tie into the fact why Gemma and Mark were selected in the first place.
Yeah, she knows the reason why.
Yeah, because like yeah, there's some more intimate connection there. And this kind of like maybe goes back to our reset theory. Maybe Mark has met her once before and then been reset or something like that.
Well, any
Um,
character that could have happened to.
any character, I mean, I mean, we don't even know if that's what it means. Like, we're just
Yeah.
speculating here. We might be
Yeah.
completely wrong. More than likely, we are.
Could just be
But
turning the computer on and off again.
yeah,
Because the internet's dodgy.
but yeah, she's such a hard character to pin down.
I mean, I think she's a true disciple of Keir still. Even after what we saw in her episode, I still just think that she just disagrees with the way the current generation of vegans are running the company.
Hmm.
And like
Mm.
you say, we know that she wants credit for her work, but she
Hmm.
still believes in her work and she still wants to do the work. That's why when they fire her, well, they don't fire her. They try and transfer her to a different department, and she's like, no. And that's when they fire her. Before we learn that, she's like, "No, I want to be manage. I want to manage the seventh floor. I want to see this project through." And now we know why. So I'm wondering, could there kind of be an overthrow of the current Egans at Lumen with Cabell trying to come in? And I wrote this, and I don't know where I got this from. Maybe even having Milchek under her again, which would be really just a bad way of phrasing it, but also a I just, him just having to have her in charge again. I imagine what that would do to him. That might be the thing that sets him off again. Or does Cobell want to take down Lumin now? What do we
Hmm.
think? Does she want to
No,
go back there and continue her work?
I think you've triggered a thought in my head where the maybe the final season, the final episode is where Cobell and possibly Milchick take over and restructure, and the company, like we're so used to seeing, oh, big companies being taken down with a final situation, but I feel like maybe Helena and James are finally taken down personally, but then they're just kicked out and Cobell takes over. Who knows? I'm not sure though, but I
Hmm.
think it's
Yeah,
going to
but
be something
that's
to
not
that
like
degree.
finale. Like,
Yeah.
That's what I'm
and
saying.
did they
That's what I'm
say
saying.
it's gonna be 4 seasons or five? Like,
They didn't say, but I know it's going to be at least three or four.
yeah, they did say they did plan it out, which is I always appreciated when things do it.
But
So
also, after the viewing figures of season two, making it the most watched Apple show of all time.
yeah,
And again, but that's because of the rewatchability of it and having to go and watch the
yeah.
episodes.
I mean, I saw at least every episode twice. Like,
Yeah, I've watched some even 3 times in
Yeah,
season
yeah, there
two.
was somewhere literally watched it once once a night every week until we recorded it. So it's
Oh
just
wow, really?
no idea
That's
what to
cool.
watch. Yeah, let's watch the episode of Severance again. Like
It's just like now, if I predicted that in the season 3 finale, there's going to be another scene of Milkshake getting trapped in a room by Dylan and telling him yelling "fuck you." We expect it now, but it'd be a bit. I don't know. I'd kind of be like, no, if they did it
it's
again.
the yeah, it's a three times
No.
rule. Don't
There
do
could be a
it.
setup to it this time, and then he actually breaks out and beats the fuck out of Dylan this time or something.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
kind of like the Steve never being able to win a fight in Stranger Things and then finally does.
Oh, it's yeah.
I did not remember that at all either, Jose. It's fine.
Well, I was thinking if we're gonna go that far, Invincible, that one guy, that one character who's immortal. The immortal never wins a fight against
He
any
always
of
gets
the.
killed, but then he comes back because
Yeah, I
he's
guess
immortal.
he's mortal. Yeah.
Next, I want to talk about Bert and Irv and Radar and Fields. Now, they have to bring John Turturro back, but this really looked like a goodbye to his outie. His in is dead, as far as we know, and his outie is gone on a train somewhere because we don't even know where the train was going. But he has to come back because he's a key cast member, one of the most popular characters, and we still don't know who he was making the calls to. And we still don't know enough about his outie's life other than his dad was in the military, right? Not him. And we had the theory early on, I think, in the series that he was working with the anti-severance people. He was like, he ironically was a mole himself on the inside, and that maybe before he got severed, this was my theory, and I think we may have discussed it a bit, that he went in and got severed willingly, and that whole role was a plant for him to get information out. But then my only question is, how did that work? How could he remember? So was he only pretending to be severed?
No.
No, no, he's severed.
No, he was severed. Because
Hmm.
my theory was that
But how
his
would he remember anything to call?
Well,
What would
that's
be
the
the point in him
problem.
that's the
calling
problem
anyone?
that
That's
Yeah.
he was an unsevered worker at Lumen and then became a severed worker.
Right, but he wouldn't remember anything to report to people.
Because the elevator, the black elevator, and the person who's worked on the Gem Up project on Cold Harbor was not severed. The doctor is an unsevered worker.
Yeah.
So that
the
could have
nurse.
been Irv's role because there's no way for him to know about the elevator
Mhm.
without having worked at Lumen. Like that's like highly secretive. Like how does he know about the elevator?
Here's my theory. I think Irv is actually part of an investigation, and that's who he's calling back towards. And so what he did is either through being a regular employee first or not, he decided to get severed, knowing that yes, he's not going to remember anything. But I think just having that kind of access, he figures, okay, somehow I'm going to figure out how to get more information from being involved. And I think that's what's the biggest part is,
And he
you,
figured out how to send his
mhm,
Innie messages with painting the elevator because
yeah,
like in season one, he was like very tactical about it because he kept drinking coffee all day and then
it made
did
him
not
tired on
sleep,
purpose.
made him tired on purpose, did not sleep at night. So, it painted that black elevator, and that's why Irv started passing out at work and seeing the black goopy goop. But that's like a tactical move to get, like, he was like purposely trying to get his innie to remember something. Like, he was after something. We just still don't know what.
So yeah, the question is Irv part of a small investigation that he's doing on his own, or is he part of a larger organization that is
Larger because he
helping
was
him?
talking to someone.
Yes, you're right. Sorry.
An organization that we still
It,
haven't seen yet or know
yeah.
anything
Exactly.
about. So they need to be fleshed out if that's
But
the way they're going to go.
there might be like another person like holding the cards here. There might be like a third secretive organization.
Because okay, is it Ragabi? She's part of a group. Because PD was like, oh, Ragabi's not one of those kids on the street. They're part of a real organization.
Yeah.
So maybe they're part of the same group, but maybe not. They're not talking to each other. So I
Maybe,
think there's
yeah.
a lot of potential. I think Irv is going to be a big player on that in
Oh, it
that
has to
sense.
be. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, here's the question because both Irv and Ragabi know about the elevator, and Irv was trying to get his innie to remember the elevator. Ragabi was asking Mark about it. Do they have other people in projects? Do they have someone on the other floor, on the other side of
Mm.
that elevator? And that's why they're so keen to know about it.
I think we might see other offices and other severed people in other countries, maybe even for like one segment, maybe kind of like we did with that season two.
Well, I think we might see Svalbard at some point potentially.
Svalbard.
That would be the most Severance thing to do. Is we have this big cliffhanger And then the first episode is us meeting new
Next se-
characters in a new
new
location.
characters.
I mean, they kind of did that again with the start of season 2 with the new MDR
Hmm.
people.
But we still
Um,
had
Yeah.
Mark to anchor us into it. What if they
yeah.
completely?
What if they completely it's like Severance Italy version
Oh,
now?
oh! I've got a theory. No, it's not bunnies. What if the first episode it looks like another office, like on a completely different floor that we've never seen before, and we spend the whole time that most of the whole first episode learning about these new characters and this other aspect of Lumin and that. And
Hmm.
at the end of the episode, this door opens and Mark and Hetty walk into it.
Oh,
Ooh, that is good.
oh, that'd
Or
be fun.
it kind of goes Total Recall, kind of original, not the horrific remake, Marie, where there's people on the inside who help them that we weren't aware of. Like suddenly they get activated, and there's people there to help Mark and Henry get out, or they go deeper into the bowels of Lumin, and there's like a whole. I want there to be some kind of whole resistance down there.
Yeah, I honestly think that we're gonna see more characters because I wouldn't be surprised if we see where Ragabi comes from, or Irv, and it means that they were in the company before in different roles, and then they somehow kind of turned and realized.
Do we see Bert again?
I
Or is
don't
that ship
think so.
sailed? That ship sailed.
No.
Oh,
I
we're seeing
think
Bert for sure.
I think this is the thing that most shows make a mistake for. Sex Education fell into this trap where they
Hmm,
keep introducing new characters but don't get rid of the old ones, and then the cast just gets way too stacked and there's way too many plot lines. I think like Bert's story is done.
really?
Yeah, I think like because like we found out like that he was actually a pretty decent dude. We found out his purpose with Lumen. Like we found out that his marriage is kind of open sort of thingy-mabob. I genuinely maybe we see him for like one episode, but I think because it's Christopher Walken, but to be honest, I think Bert's story is done. Like I
Hmm.
don't
I
think there's more to
disagree.
add.
Why, Jose? What brings Bert back into it?
I think this show's really good about doing flashbacks in sense of like giving us storylines of the characters and their motivations. And Christopher Walken, yeah, we kind of know what he did, but that's still kind of like, oh, he drove people. But I'm like, maybe we find out more. But I know that if anything, moving forward, he could definitely be someone who is in the inside, and he might be reluctant to help, but then in the end, he does help Irving. I don't know how, but I feel like ultimately he's going to help Irving.
Something needs to happen to get Earth to come back from wherever he's gone, and then he probably has to go back and use Bert maybe to try and get to achieve whatever aim he's after. So something has to happen to get him to come back. Is what we kind of need to say.
This is why I'm still pulling for a hostage situation where they barricade themselves into Lumen and refuse to leave. Like,
But do you know what? I still don't trust Bert because because there was that lie about how long Severance has been going on.
See, there's so much there to find out about
yeah.
Bert. I think the little they've given us with each character, there's no way they're done. And they've shown that they're like with Cobell, we didn't had no clue what was her deal, and we found out she invented Severance.
Yeah,
So
but
it's
we
like,
weren't really seeking what answers with Cobell. I mean, there was the whole like
mhm,
Charlotte, like we were wondering who Charlotte was. And that's why the Cobell reveal was so good because none of us predicted the fact that she invented Severance. Like none of us thought about that. With Bert, we're like because it's Christopher Walken, we're like, okay, something's going on with Bert. There is something like we were saying it throughout the entire season.
He's
Like
a low-level goon.
he's a low level goon. But we kept saying he's evil. He's evil. He's still working for Lumen because we expect answers. I don't think they're going to give us answers. And the thing is, sometimes mystery is still good
Yeah,
as long as it makes sense. As long as it's not, oh, we couldn't think of something, so we just left it a
yeah.
mystery.
well, here's two characters that, again, I don't really think. And again, it's a problem is one of them's a key, has been a main character, cast member. But again, I don't see much for where their story's going to go for the next season. And that is Dylan and Gretchen. Gretchen!
Gretchen!
Sorry, that must have peaked on the audio. Really
It must
sorry.
have been so loud. Yeah.
Sorry.
But I'm not really sure what they do with Dylan here because it almost looked like he gets given a decision at the end of the season to look, you can leave if you want.
And he stays.
But that all kind of happens when he's down there deciding. So he might have decided to leave. He's like, oh, I'll just help out my friends, but then I'm going to go. So, which would kind of be an anticlimax. I had a theory here. Could we see a situation, and I don't know how this would happen, some kind of Freaky Friday severed mishap where LTD gets to switch with Innie and hold the reins instead. So we actually get LTD getting to live with his wife and kids, and Innie actually get.
Nah,
I bet it's not
I
been
don't
done,
think
and it's a
so.
crazy theory. That would at least give him a storyline then, but then it wouldn't be tied to the main plot overall, would it?
Yeah, and she already admitted to him, the Audi, that she had a feelings and had a situation with NED.
Hmm.
I mean, I feel like we're gonna see a little more Gretchen, but just kind of seeing how things are from the outside.
Hmm.
Maybe she is a security guard for
No.
Lumen,
She's a paramedic.
a paramedic. I keep forgetting that
No,
part.
but you keep thinking that she's like a plant, didn't you? Was that one
No,
of the
not a
theories
plant,
earlier?
but like I think she's working for the company in some way that maybe she helps resuscitate someone. Maybe that like they have to go do something extreme, and they're like, "Oh, I can bring him back," or she has a doctor friend.
This is where my hostage situation theory comes in because Gretchen would make a great hostage negotiator because she knows
Hmm.
the innies and the outies.
Yeah, I think there's potential for Gretchen's use of medical experience. They wouldn't just
Hmm.
make her a paramedic for no reason.
That is a very good point.
But like, every character's kind of got like a big overwhelming arc. And Dylan, I don't know what he does next.
To be honest, true. But I think you can just shift away from the focus of Dylan and just have him supporting. Dylan,
Hmm.
I mean, Dylan's story like is the one that I related to most this season. I mean, Irv is still my boy. He's still my precious gay baby. But Dylan, I mean, the whole like I've always been a loser in the fact that you're crushing it. I feel like this is how my Audi would talk to me because clearly I'm crushing it and she's a loser. This is not self-reflection in any way, but it did really like hit me that like that this is like the reason why I kind of see Severance working to give yourself a new start and help out. And Dylan, yeah, Dylan was that window into seeing like if Severance worked, like if Severance wasn't completely evil and Lumen wasn't completely psychotic and torturing everyone, Severance could in fact work for that reason where like you give someone like a fresh start without the baggage and then suddenly they're more confident, they're crushing it at work, they're earning
If it
money.
just wasn't run by an evil corporation.
Exactly. Like you could
Hmm.
see the possibility. You could still see, oh, this could work.
And then they go torture people.
Yeah, then it doesn't work. But
And sacrifice you with a goat.
Yeah.
yes,
Ugh.
that was definitely not in the job description.
I think the only thing we can agree on with Dylan is that in season 3, at some point, he has to trap Milchek in another space and tell him to go fuck himself. Because it's
I
just
mean, yeah,
two finales in a row, third time's a
yeah.
charm, or third time it goes wrong badly. Next character, who I think's gone, but I think Jose thinks gone, Miss Huang. Gone.
Yeah.
Miss gone.
Same. I don't think we're gonna see her again.
I say she makes an appearance.
I think the only potential way you could see her come back would be a season or two down the line, or whenever we have a resolution to whatever milkshake storyline is going to be. Like, say he's going to be fired or he's just out of the building, and they bring her back as his replacement, like a
Yeah,
couple of
and as
seasons
an
down the line,
adult.
as an adult. Yeah,
So here's what I think there's a potential for aside from that, because that's actually not a bad point.
Lumin
I feel
Norway
like
spin-off series.
Newman Norway.
no, but kind of in a way we saw with Cobell that the factories was actually there was some truth to that, and so I think with Miss Huang, we see some truth to what she goes through as a student of Lumen. So I think that may be a small part, but maybe we see it later on when they're trying to figure out what to do with the company. But I think it seems odd. I guess they have had characters that didn't come back.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I think there's quite a few. I think they made a big deal about. I mean, do you remember when the casting announcement was made for season 2? And I was like, oh well, Bob Babalan's in it. Oh, he's in loads of Coen Brothers film. Alia
Hmm.
Shawkat, oh, she was brilliant in Arrested Development and Green Room and
That's
all these
true.
great
Yeah,
films. And they had one
one
and a
episode.
half, one episode and like a brief bit in another one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Same with Gwendolyn Christie. Like,
Yeah, I think Huang gone. Huang
yeah.
gone.
yeah,
I
I guess
mean,
so.
this did generally kind of feel like the story, the plot point for the sake of being weird to have a child supervisor. I think they did kind of explain it with the Wintertide
Yeah,
Fellowship, but it's still, I don't know. It never. I think maybe that's another qualm of my of the series. It never fully delivered like the explanation of why would you have a child supervisor. Okay,
because
she
that's
was
when
doing.
she was born.
No, it just says because of when I was born, not that's when. Because of when I was born.
Close enough.
Know your
But
quotes.
I feel like this is another thing where it takes maybe more than one season to answer those questions.
I don't think there's any questions left to be answered with her.
Yeah, maybe this was another goat situation where they thought,
Hmm.
okay, it would be funny and weird if we had a child supervisor. And of course, it did show that Lumen has no problem with child labor. Like that was
Yeah.
another
As we
with
found out with ether factories.
yeah, with all the kids getting high.
Next up, Devon and Rickon. This isn't my fault, but it was the most common thing I found when I was doing a bit of research. Please, 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 we have to have Devon leave Rickon for a woman at some point. Like, why is she even with him?
Is it true? I mean, I'm always for the gay. But
I'll be
uh,
honest, Rickon is never outright bad.
Yes,
He's
he
just
is. He's
odd.
a douche.
no, he
He's
isn't.
just odd. He's a guy trying to make a living writing books.
Just
Yeah,
He may
but
how
not be
do
he
the
the two of them
smartest.
even work? How?
You know what?
I think it's like these opposite attracts kind of thing because like Devin is like very high strung and tense,
Hmm.
so she needs someone to like mellow her out. Like together they seem happy.
Look at Selena Gomez and Benny Blanco.
Not
Like
No,
Sabrina
no.
Carpenter and Barry Keoghan.
Oh,
that. Oh no, that's I
I
know
mean,
that
I've
that
seen
was bad.
Saltburn. I kind of know the answer to that. Um,
Is that reliable though?
he wasn't
Yeah,
using a
they could be
prosthetic.
fake
No, it
apparently.
was no, it was his. Uh,
Moving on.
She
and
did the research.
you probably need to cut this out. But by the way, I've seen interviews with Benny Blanco, and I fucking get it. That man is a legend. Like, do not judge an appearance. He treats
No, I get
women
it.
like a queen. He is like
Yeah,
every man should take a
exactly,
note from him.
exactly.
So,
Who is
It's not
Benny
just about
Blanco?
appearances.
music producer.
Okay, fair enough.
Yes.
Moving on. Rickon, he's a bit of a wet lettuce, right?
I mean, I think Rickon
We're
is
gonna
no.
disagree.
He's the
Propaganda writer for Lumin now?
no.
I think he
What's
will.
the word?
There
Rickon
we
is the
go.
comic relief of the series. Like whenever we need something light, Rickon is there to say something stupid.
Yeah, yeah.
I think he's just gonna stay like a background character. I don't
Yeah.
not
It's,
Hmm.
no yeah, not
we
much
don't need
about
more of
him.
him.
Yeah,
No.
exactly. Yeah, I mean, I as I said, I need to apologize for Devin because she had the best ideas this season, and I kept calling her stupid.
And one other character I don't think we're going to see is I think we're done with the goats. I think we're done with
Same.
Lorne, and I had she actually had to Google her name because it was just Brienne of Tarth or Goat Lady.
Yeah, it's never been said. Like,
I think was it on the subtitle maybe, or no, it was not even that.
I
We
don't
might
know.
we might see her because we didn't expect to
What?
see her in the finale.
Well, she could turn up to beat someone's ass again, I suppose, in season three.
Yeah,
Yeah, but I think we are done with the goat subplot. I do agree with you.
I think it's what we talked about in maybe the last one, where they were written as a throwaway joke in season one. Everyone went on about it and they're like, shit, we need to pay this off somehow. They've now paid it off with the most kind of obvious route. Why would you have goats down there? Oh, well, for sacrifice. Okay, obvious kind of. And we're done.
It still doesn't explain why the eye chart was in goats in Gemma's like medical
For the
assessment.
goats to read, for the goat's eye test. We went over this, Marie. Human eye test, goat eye test.
I do want to add one thing. I think Natalie might be collateral damage when things go down. I think because we don't really know too much about her and her role and everything, I think she might be part of what goes down. Maybe she might die. Maybe she just loses her job. But I think something happens to her that's not great.
Many people
And
die.
yeah.
I mean,
I
there's
mean, we
a
all die, Neil, eventually.
everybody dies. This is the second time a tall guy in a suit got murdered on Severance. Because the first henchman got killed by
Right?
Ragabi in season one, and now the second one. So that job is not very popular. Like the mortality
Oh,
rate
yeah.
is through the roof.
If you go by
Like
Yeah.
Austin Powers, henchmen do not have a good run of it. The goat storyline, though, what happens to Mammalian's nurturables now that Lorne has disobeyed Lumin? She's not done her job. So if they did need to bring her back, that could be you could see her like in HR getting a bollocking for, yeah, you threatened your supervisor with
hostage situation. She's gonna lock herself in there
in
with
the
the
goat room.
goats. In the goat room. They're gonna lock themselves in the goat
That will
room.
be your fly episode in season three, Jose. We're like, why are we spending an episode with her and a goat? It's got nothing to do with anything. It's all from a goat eye point of view. There you go. Goat cam, the whole
Goat
episode.
cam.
Oh
We're gonna do a
man.
whole episode with goat cam.
Man.
I just think in general that you're probably right there. The first episode might be like some kind of situation where we figure out how do these employees react to what's going on. The thing with this show is I think it's done such a great job of leading us one way and we overcompensate what might happen, and it's more grounded than what we think is going to happen.
Yeah, it's usually the simplest answer a lot of the times, isn't it?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
more interesting answer, honestly. Because who would have thought Cobell designed everything? Who would have thought Gemma is still alive? Everything's a little less crazy. I mean, granted, Helena pretending to be Helly, that's pretty cool. Some people predicted it, but before season two, would we have even thought of that?
By the end of the first episode, or by the end of the second episode of the next season, they need to kind of establish some re-equilibrium. You need to
Yeah,
have all the
yeah.
characters back, and they need to be working on something, or they need to be back in the space in the office doing something similar again.
See, I
Because
don't think.
be
Yeah, well,
no,
I'm very clear that I don't think so. Like, I think MDR is done.
so they're going to be in the corridors of Lumin doing something else, maybe in a different department, or like, what if the hostage situation went on the whole season?
No, I don't think so. If I'm like if I was the writers, I would do it like one episode. But and by the way, if you like my ideas, I am currently unemployed. So if any of the Severance writers happen to see this, Ben Stiller, give me a call.
Yeah.
Dan Erickson.
I think what we'll end up seeing more of is how the company itself works and maybe the technology.
Yeah,
Because they kind
true.
of, I think we're going to get a deep dive. Like these guys are trying to get away, but then how do they escape off a floor that if they change floors, their personalities change?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
And
that's a good point. What happens when they go through a door they've not been through before that we don't know about? What personalities do we suddenly
Mhm.
get?
Yeah. Which is why I'm saying they refuse to leave. I'm gonna be dead
But how
wrong.
do they?
Cut to like 2 years later.
And based on what Jose just said, is then so the simplest, most straight ahead option is because they're on a severed floor, they simply reset Mark and Helly,
Hmm.
and they don't remember all what their Innies have done. They're just brand new Innies again.
It would be tragic though.
Like, this show does a lot of tragedy, doesn't
I
it?
know, but they just found
Yeah,
love. They just found love. They shared vessels and then
found
they
love
would
in a
lose.
And if you know
lonely
anything about TV,
place.
when characters get this was a Joss Whedon rule, and despite him being a despicable douchebag, whenever in his shows characters got together, something horrific happened to them after one or two episodes of happiness,
Yeah.
all the time. So could they separate Mark and Helly and make them go through a similar journey to what Mark and Gemma did? So then it's Mark and Helly trying to get to each other down there. But then again, it's very similar to the Mark and Gemma thing.
For the record, I'm a Mark and Gemma teammate. Team Gemma.
Next, I had would James kill his own daughter?
I mean, I don't.
No.
He wouldn't. He would kill Helena. He wouldn't kill Helly.
Kill Helly.
Yeah, he wants Helly to survive and
So
be.
could he do like a reverse Glasgow block where they wipe her outie and just put Helena and put Helly in as Helena?
I
See,
mean,
Oh,
I think their
that
goal is
is
to
like,
try to convert Helly into someone who
trying to
wants to be.
convert, but if they can't
yeah.
convert her by just regular means, can they just do it with a chip?
That's the whole interesting part of the show is them trying to convince Helly to be part of their team.
The
I
dark
think,
side. Turn to the dark side.
yeah, I think you, to be honest, you're on to something like that because, like, that scene with James was so weird. They must have a plan for it. Like him
Yeah.
just like appearing like the ghost of Christmas 10,000 years ago, past barely being able to breathe. Like they have.
Yeah,
I
he
think
went full Palpatine, didn't he?
yeah, he did. He did. I think like yeah, Helly's and
Young
Helena's
Helena.
stories will be centered more around James.
Now, what did Dr. Mauer mean by "you kill them all"? Did he mean? And then we kind of debated this briefly. No one. Did he just mean all of Gemma's other personalities, or did he mean all the other Innies?
See, I read it as all the other innies.
Yeah.
I think that's potential, yeah.
But then again, that doesn't make sense because how would she be connected to all the other Innies there? So
No,
her
no.
leaving, unless it was in a bigger, grander scheme of things where they get out, they escape, and then they bring down Lumin, and then that leads to them all being killed.
Or
I think that's
Severance isn't flawless and something happens to you after like 3, 5 years.
hmm.
Like if the chip like degrades, like we all know what happens to technology. So like if something maybe, and that's what they were actually trying to find, like a solution to that. Like the chip kind of loses its potent
Efficacy.
chip loses efficacy. That's the
There we
techie
go.
talk I was looking
Oh, there
That's
we
how
for.
go.
Milchek would say it.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, but I do think that like maybe that's the thing. Like that's what he meant by it. That maybe after 10 years, like the Innie and Audi kind of blur into one, but not in a good way. You kind of just become like a zombie or something like that. Which is like
Nice.
a metaphor of if you spend too long working in an office and then you just also become a shell of yourself.
I
None of
mean,
we
yeah.
don't work in offices. Yeah, but one thing, one advantage of our Audi's jobs is that we don't really work in the corporate world.
I just think it's a broad statement saying that if she leaves, they won't be able to come back, and that's kind of like how Irv died. And so I think
True.
maybe it could be just all the innies.
Will we ever see the episode one replacement refiners again?
No.
I hope so, honestly, but probably not. I don't think so.
No Gwendolyn, no Mark W, no Italian guy who I don't even think got a name, did he, in the show?
You know, he has a name. He has a name.
Yeah,
He has
name.
an
He
I
has a
just
ID
don't
name.
remember.
badge.
Ah, okay.
But I couldn't tell you, but I know he has one. I don't think we're seeing. I kind of like that they just appeared in episode one and a little bit of episode two, and then
Yeah.
we never see them
I
again.
would kind of like that.
Mhm.
You have this big stunt casting again for season three with all these big name actors coming to it, and they're there for one scene again in one different
Yeah.
department. That's it. That's all you see them.
Yeah.
I think that'd be cool. I think that'd be, and I think they'll probably do something similar to that. I think once we start getting the cast announcements for season three, I was like, oh, Pedro Pascal's in it, or something like that. I bet he's probably, he's in
Oh,
everything, isn't
bet
he?
you. Yeah. Oh, that would actually be a good prediction for season three that they get Pedro.
Or anyone out of Parks and Rec to go along with Mark, which would be, I
Oh,
mean,
Yes.
that'd be awesome.
if we could get,
Aubrey Plaza.
no,
Leslie Nope.
Leslie Knope. Leslie Knope would be fun.
In
Or Ron Swanson.
yes.
Swanson looks like he could be Drummond's brother or something, or another Egan. He's got the Drummond look to him, Swanson.
Yeah,
So
he could be the new henchman that's going to die at the end of the season.
yeah, I'd love the Parks and any Parks and Rec things. Or I mean, you think of Adam Scott shows. Party Down was a brilliant show. Some great actors in that who they could bring in.
Yeah.
Do you ever see Party Down, Jose?
I've seen one episode and I know some of the actors. Yeah.
It
It, sh
barely ever made it over to the UK, and I was like, oh, and I found it like on I think on
it should
ships
have been
and
better. I mean, in terms of like, it should have done better.
should have done better. Yeah, it's a really
It was
good
a
show.
fun show, but I definitely think it relies on knowing hospitality. That's why kind of some
Which
of these
most
shows,
people worked in, so it's kind of like
yeah,
in
but
the early
like the
days.
average like Middle East Western Midwestern people don't know it, who have day jobs.
All right, a biggie coming up. Will there be a big reveal next season that every different person was working on a different person? So, like, actually, Earth was working on someone when he was
Yeah,
refining numbers,
I think so.
but connected to Earth that we haven't found out about yet was Dylan. But Dylan's wife's out there, so who would Dylan be working on? So that doesn't really track if I.
I
I
think that's why it
think
was such a big deal with Mark and
exactly
Gemma,
that
because
Yeah,
was
like,
the
kind of the
connections just were
secret.
bigger.
Like that,
yeah,
yeah, that was the secret and that was the key to cracking it, that you needed to have a connection with the person you were refining.
Yeah, because I was thinking this doesn't quite work for me. Because so surely the files the refiner is working on is a person, right? But they can't all be working on Gemma, though. Surely.
No, they weren't
yeah,
because they're working on different file names and like because like the in like season one opens up with them like telling each other what kind of files they finished and like they're all working on different files and just because and then it looks like files can't be transferable because otherwise someone else could have finished Cold Harbor
And
from
files
Dark.
expire
And
yeah,
files
yeah.
expire, which is a very interesting tidbit.
and
So
dark
yeah, and Dark, exactly. So
expire.
yeah, but what causes them to expire? Like it's
So graphic,
we know the
yeah.
result of the expiry, but so yeah, I think they are all working. And like if you look at the set or like the downstairs area, like there was a room opposite Gemma's. Like
Hmm,
that
hmm.
place is huge.
Coleman was a room, wasn't it? I think we saw that we hadn't been into. There was Sim.
Um, no, I think all the rooms that we saw were part of
But of
Mark's
her 20.
files,
Okay, right.
24.
That
But
corridor was
but her
her.
living quarters corridor was separate from the other rooms, and there's another room opposite hers, like because it's mirrored the architecture. So and as we said, PD's map said people live down there, not just one person lives down there. So
I mean, that
I
could have just be as simple as Gemma and the other doctors and those people that he'd seen, maybe.
No, I think it's
uh
more than that. I
no,
think
I
it's
think
more.
it's more than
You're
that.
you're like you're expecting like a whole Fraggle Rock down there or something, aren't you, Jose?
Honestly,
I
yeah.
There's that might be like a little thing like guilt, like one person got saved, but the rest are still down there, or some like that could be a plot line for season three. Because yeah, because that to be honest, that's I think the only logical conclusion that they were all working on one person. Like they all had They had all a person assigned to them.
Because connected to that, I thought, well, the reason Mark is so important and Gemma's so important is because Mark and Gemma have that relationship, and it's clearly the most important one in terms of how many iterations of Severance and new personalities they've been able to create for her, which clearly seems to be the most they've ever done. And her final task of taking the crib apart was the most traumatic thing they could do, and the Severance barrier was holding. So that's when he's doing it. That's why he feels the good numbers and he feels the bad numbers as he's working his way through the memories, which makes sense. So how can other refiners? This is why they have to be working on other people because they were having emotional responses as well to the numbers, but they don't know Gemma.
Hmm.
They haven't got a relationship with her. So this surely that clarifies they have to be working on different people because you wouldn't be having an emotional response to someone you don't know
I mean that harks back that Gemma and Mark were unique for some reason
for
because
some
like
reason. Yeah,
because Dylan was like it's not
He's a pretty badass.
Dylan was the best one. He was the best refiner of the
yeah.
group, and but then he wasn't as important. Like that's like Irv was there the longest. He wasn't as important, and Dylan even says oh, Mark came in and he had his lucky streak. Like he was I
Hmm.
think
Hmm.
he said something like beginner's luck or something like
A
that.
freshman fluke.
That's
Exactly. I was
it.
going to say he
Nice.
said that in a very Dylan way. That's, I think, when they cracked the code. But they couldn't really get rid of the other refiners.
Hmm.
And so they just basically kept them as maybe backup. I don't know. But yeah, because that's key. Mark coming in changed something.
Or
Like,
it could literally just be something as simple as what they're refining is connected to marks, but it's not as important. It's like when you're building a puzzle and people are building, when you normal people at least when they do a puzzle, you start by building the edges. So they're just doing the
Hmm.
edges of the work, and Mark's doing the actual complicated bit. So it could be
Agree.
something as simple as that, couldn't it? That they actually were working on it, but it's explained that way. Jumping ship to a completely different subject. What happened to the anti-severance people mentioned a few times in season one and barely at all in season two? And the
not at
public
all.
outrage, was it mentioned at all in season
I
two?
don't think that is a good, I never even thought about that. And because I don't think they were mentioned once.
No.
I think they're just there to establish the plot in the first season. Now that we've understood what's going on,
Maybe
that
showing that people, not everyone is for severance. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, second episode or second season, we see Dylan going through that job interview and he
And the
talks about
guy's,
severance.
and the guy
The
Yeah.
doesn't
guy's
give him the
really
job
upset.
because of it.
Yeah, so we
So,
we see that it's still an issue outside of the company. So
And I suppose what we're probably thinking is like Ragabi might be connected to these people, Earth might be connected to these people, is kind of
I think
the
so.
the
Yeah.
path we're looking at on that one. Also, was integration bullshit? Because technically, we didn't actually need it for Mark to talk to his innie and outie. We just needed the birthing cabins. So yes, we went through all that for no reason. The only reason we actually needed it from a plot point of view was it enabled us to have Devon call Cabal to help him.
yeah.
Hmm.
But bar that, they could have, if it wasn't the only way to do it, then why didn't they find any? This kind of actually is one of the things I'm not a fan of.
This is what Marie talked about earlier. This is an inconsistency.
Yeah, yeah.
It just shows a flaw in the show.
It seems to have kind of been dropped as a key plot point because it was really serious and really serious. And then, oh, apparently Mark's fine. But also, like you say, with the birthing cabin stuff, he didn't actually need to undergo reintegration. That whole scene would have worked if there'd been another way for Cabell to get hold of Mark's outie and explain to him. That seemed to be the only way they could get from A to B there. So, oh well, we'll have him undergo reintegration. It'll go wrong, and then Devon can call Cabell to come and help him. But she doesn't help him.
Hmm.
She doesn't do anything at all to him from a medical stance, and they just send him back off again. I was like, but he just almost had a brain hemorrhage on the floor. Devon picked him up and then took him to the cabin, and then when they meet Cabell there, and they just carry on with it again. The only thing I can think with where the reintegration might come into it more is you've got Innie Mark and Innie Helly really getting on well, but then the integration starts to happen, and Innie Mark then starts changing to Outie Mark, who actually then wants to leave to go and see Gemma.
Hmm.
So that could be a way they could kind of make it the integrate play off the integration plot line and also complicate the twosome again.
Hmm.
Oh, I'm onto something there. I like that. Integration isn't bullshit. I've changed my mind.
No, because that's just what my argument was, that just story wise,
Hmm.
like because
It
every
was
time they said,
helpful.
if you do this, you get reintegrated. If you do this, you get reintegrated, and nothing happened. And that was like like I can't believe I'm saying this about Severance, but it was bad writing. It was simple. It was bad writing. This is not something that you read into it. It was just inconsistent writing.
Or here's something that might happen in the first episode in season 3. Maybe as they're running away, the reintegration pops in again, and it's like,
And
oh, what's going
That
on?
would be literally, they're literally at
And
the end
then
of the corridor and Gemma's still there and he must,
yeah, and
that'd
then
completely undo it.
actually, I'm just gonna go this way.
yeah, so it kind of ties into what Neil's thinking. He
Yeah.
struggles with himself to stay in the floor.
Well, that was my next note because
Yeah.
when he asked him about when they're having a conversation with each other, Innie and Outie in the finale, and he's going, "But how would this work? You know, would we combine into one? But I've only been alive for what is it, 2 years? So would my personality just get completely subsumed by yours?"
Yeah.
And this is kind of what I just said. Yeah, maybe Outie Mark slowly takes over Innie Mark on the severed floor because of the reintegration.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's it, and that's how you could resolve a hostage
Yeah.
situation. I'm dying
Also,
on this hill. I'm dying
Well,
on this hill.
but at the same time,
the
his
negotiator
feelings for
starring Ruby
Helly
Stanton.
should remain. So then he will have to probably make a choice between Helly and Gemma, because
But if he's
his
more
feelings
Outie
don't.
Mark than Innie Mark, he's gonna choose his wife.
Yeah, true. I mean, to be honest, any more kind of valid point. I mean, because like if you there's more life that kind of gets sucked away. So yeah, it's
Mhm.
I mean it's there's
2% maybe.
I mean, I'm always up for like a good throuple polyamorous situation up here. I think, and so maybe they throuple it up. I mean, they were hinting at it with Irv, Bert, and Fields. Like I got vibes. But
I think not at the same time. They were just happy to share, but it's
Well, Field
yeah,
was just willing to keep Bert by sharing Bert.
yeah,
yeah.
He was
sharing
afraid
a
of losing
bird.
him.
Next, I want to say, do we potentially get, and this is from the painting, Exalted Victory of Cold Harbor, Cabell's not the villain, Milchick's not the villain, James not the villain, Helena is the villain.
I mean, we kind of were saying that.
No, no, we were saying it in terms of thing, but does she somehow get a chance to switch back or become reintegrated herself? I mean, it's just her being front and center in the painting that really makes me think, oh, they're hinting that
I don't think Helena
something's going to
is
happen.
necessarily an evil person. She's just no.
She's like the head of the company, Jose.
She's the head of the company, but she does what she's told because James is still really in charge. And that's why also she's decided to switch because she wanted to have some fun with Mark. Ultimately, I'm very much minimizing the details, but ultimately, I think
Well, she didn't
Helena.
want to switch purely to have fun with Mark. I mean, she
Yes, I mean, I'm like I
like
said, I'm simplifying extremely, but I think ultimately, like she wouldn't have done that if she was fine with her personal life and outside as
true.
outie Helena.
She is very miserable in her life. I don't think Helena is a very happy person. Um, but I don't but like she's kind of that person who makes her misery everyone else's problem and like puts their
Hmm.
problems on everyone else. But yeah, I mean I've always seen her as a villain. Like
Okay. No,
Yeah,
but I mean,
she's like
I feel like she's going to be the uber villain. I think because we spend so much time with Milkshake and Cobell over the first two, we've not seen that much of Helena.
the genius of the show is though there is no uber villain. The uber
yeah.
villain is capitalism and corporations. That is kind of the whole point of it. So like the uber villain is this entity, this like this work system that we're all trapped in.
Yeah.
So
Although James does is a good
I mean James is a good
potential.
face for that.
Yeah.
That
Be
like
a creepy motherfucker.
But yeah, like there is no outright villain because like I said with
Well, because
Milkshake.
it's so well written because they give everyone shades
Yeah,
of grey.
exactly.
Milkshake on
exactly.
paper would be your main villain, but then they show you how the
He gets
company's
shit
being
on.
really racist towards him. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's the thing. The Helena being the uber villain is an interesting idea, but I don't think it ultimately comes to light.
What if we get to the stage where James does something, or they like I said earlier, they want to switch. They just want to erase her outie. They want to get rid of, kill off Helena and make Helly have control over the full body.
Yeah.
And that's the way where you can get Helly
But she,
outside of the building. And
Hmm.
then she goes, "Well, I'm not going without Mark, so you need to fix Mark." So then you get Innie Mark and Helly outside of the building in Lumen.
so
So
that's
then
not
that,
villain there.
oh, huh?
That's not villainous. That's actually
No, no,
heroic.
I'm not on about the villainous thing. I've just gone off on another tangent. So
Oh,
then it's a way to get Helly and Mark Innies, everyone's like, hey, Team Helly and Mark, mostly, except the people who are Team Mark and Gemma. But then
Team
that gets
Trouble.
them that gets them out of the building, secretly pretending to do what Jane wants them to do. So they're kind of working against Lumin outside of the building then. So then imagine the scene when Gemma, Cabal, and Devon catch up with them or find them, and it's Innie Mark, not Outie Mark. Oh, that would be good. Like Gemma's like, oh Mark, and then she doesn't because he's outside the building. She immediately thinks it's Outie Mark. That would be good. That'd be a
I don't think Devon can be fooled. She's met both of them. Like she knows now the difference between Innie and Mountain Park. But if we're talking about villains, you're forgetting one key player. The board.
who is the board?
The mysterious board.
the racist old AI.
Because that doesn't seem to be James. And then
No,
there was,
James seems separate from the board.
yeah,
There
and there's
is
a voice from the figurine from the
From the
celebration at the end.
Yeah, the Kia
Is
Regan
that
figurine.
the board? Is that the board?
I don't know. It was clearly someone who knew Milkshake
Milkshake.
because like I generally thought it was Drummond, but I'm not sure
Yeah.
if the timings for that align.
I definitely think it's related to the Egans because why else would telling them, "Oh, this thing is a foot taller than you really were." Why would that
That
be an
is
insult to
true.
anyone?
That is true. That would have been
Mhm.
not an insult to anyone except for an
And
Egan.
Egan, yeah. And maybe how does he even know that actually? Now that I think about it, how did Milkshake know that that thing was taller than what he should be?
How would he know the real height
Yeah.
of
I,
Kia?
they documented everything. I'm sure that there's like a medical like
Hmm.
assessment somewhere where it's like
That's a
here's
sick
actual
burn then.
height.
That's a
That is
sick. It's a sick shake. So do we? And this is what David proposed. Is the board just an AI, like an old racist computer that was
Ooh,
made by Kia back in the
maybe.
day before he popped his clogs, and that's why they still got all this retro stuff. Imagine if at the end of the Severance or something, like it was like a village reveal where the rest of the world is in a modern day, completely normal, but the town of Kia and Lumin is just stuck in this weird timelessness.
I
Well, I
mean,
mean, they have the modern smartphones,
also
and
we've
so
seen them leave now. Like we've seen Cobell and now Irv is left as well. So
Miss Huang gone to
yeah, Svalbard. I
Norway.
don't think so.
there's some kind of element to that because, like, how can they have a smartphone but then walkie-talkies, but then also this technology that severs people?
But they don't have phones on the severed floor. Like the severed floor is devoid of time. You even see them switching out their watches. They can't have a modern watch. They have to have an old-timey watch when they check in.
Oh, yeah.
But even in the town, there's lots of retro futuristic stuff. Like when we see Cabell's car, it's a CD player in there.
True, but she
Some
might just
cars still
never
have
have
CD players.
upgraded her car exactly.
I was very
I
succinct
Our
in
mean,
that
car in
because
Hungary still has a cassette player. Remember those?
wow.
Well, I say that
Yeah.
to you, and you both are older than me, so it's.
I have cassettes, Marie. I have cassettes. Now, here's another big one. If we now know that people can be severed between different personalities in different rooms, could we get some actors back, but with different personalities? So, like, they could put a Bert, they could put a Nerve, they could put a Miss Huang back in
Mhm.
with a completely different personality.
I think so. It's definitely possible.
I
I mean,
mean, yes,
so,
but I think that adds too many cogs into a machine, and that just balances.
Hmm.
I think after a while, it feels like fan service, where they're like, "Oh, you like this character? Well, we're
Let's bring
done
them
with
back.
this version of them, but let's bring them back another version." But I think the 24 personalities to Gemma was unique to Gemma.
Oh, yeah.
mhm.
Um,
Because that's the closest they've got to.
that's closest they got. And I think no one ever has completed 24 files except for Mark. Because like Mark walking into the room didn't do anything to him. Like
Oh,
his
hi,
walk
Mark.
Oh yeah.
Can't believe
he
we've not
walked
done
into
that yet.
he walked into the crib room and like nothing happened to him like
Yeah.
I think that was something very unique to Gemma.
How have I not seen that meme yet with Tommy Wiseau on the severed floor saying, "Oh, hi, Mark"?
I'm
How has
sure
no
it
one done that?
exists.
I'm sure it exists. I just haven't
I
seen it.
I think if you make it, you'll be one of the few that has thought of that.
No,
No.
no. I guarantee you if I Googled this episode is long enough, but still.
Yeah.
Okay.
Carry on, guys.
I've only got a couple of points, and my second to last point is Secret Egans.
Oh
How
yeah,
many
that's
other has James sired? And could it be anyone else in the cast we already know, or is it going to
no.
be new characters?
I think it's new characters. I'm gonna be very strong on that opinion. It it just doesn't make sense for the age that James is. Like everyone's a full-on adult, and even Helena's kind of young compared to everyone. So I think if anything, like Miss Huang, is potentially a Negan. But honestly,
No,
it
I
just
wouldn't.
I
I
think with this
wouldn't
kind of
think.
show, it makes sense to have other characters. Like even if there are side characters, they don't last long. They make an appearance, like Helen of Tarth.
Helen of
two
Tarth.
episodes. I think Brienne of Tarth is a good example of like there's a big star. She shows up 2 episodes, and that's technically a new actor. I think that's going to happen for next season. We're going to see some big name actors because I mean this show is so popular. There's
That
going to
wasn't
be
the question, though. The question was, is there a secret Egan?
I think that I don't think there's anybody on the current cast that's going to end up being an Egan. It just doesn't
Right.
make sense because then who Mark? No, that's kind of gross. Um,
Devon.
Devin,
It,
it doesn't make
I don't
sense
think
because
so.
Apropos of absolutely nothing, Devon, secret Egan.
yeah,
I mean, no, because they have the same parents.
yeah.
But uh,
I mean, they
I
have
don't think
to have
so.
guest stars. That's part of shows. It's okay to have someone show up for an episode or two.
True, but I don't think the secret Egans are gonna come back. I think that was more like I don't think they're
It's
gonna
just a
be.
throwaway line then.
No, it's not a throwaway line. It shows what kind of man he
Yeah,
is.
yeah,
It's a
That
man who
he
throws candies when he's upset.
the man that like sires children in the dark, like
yeah,
cheats on his wife and has multiple partners because he thinks his bloodline is so pure and needs to be passed down, but he's never happy with the result. Like it wasn't a throwaway line, but I don't think it will result into a character. I don't think like this is because that's a bit of a telenovela plot twist where someone comes in and is like, I was an Egan all along, so this company belongs to me now. That's not
yeah,
It's like the
Severance.
yeah.
Californians on Saturday Night Live.
No, no, yeah,
Yeah. So like I generally don't think we're gonna see Secret Egans. It's just was something like it was a comment to his character.
Okay.
yeah. That's true. That's true.
Right. So I think the last ever episode and the last ever scene of the show has to be all the Innies somehow rescued that want to be rescued outside of Lumen, and they're standing there as Lumen burns to the ground. Because as they say in the season one, let's burn this place to the ground. I think that has to be the ultimate end of the show. Just the place burning down and then being free, don't you?
If they're outside of the innies, what happens to their outies?
I think over the course of the next season or two, there'll be kind of a merging of some. And I think some people, like I say, I still think there's going to be something where they're going to try and get rid of Helena and replace her with Helly, Innie and Alti. So there will be the Alti Helena will cease. They'll try and kill off Helena and replace her with Helly because she sees the fire of Kira in her. So obviously, but she can't just be an Innie. So there's like a reverse Severance thing where they put her Helly's personality completely over that body, which is something they haven't done yet or even hinted at. So I think that'd be a cool way to do it. It needs to end with Lumin burning to the ground, and somehow, but Irv's got to just be stood there smiling as well.
I think we're just getting ahead of ourselves. We still have 2 more seasons. We gotta do this shit
Yeah,
next
Potentially
year as
more.
well.
And speaking of theories, which we have been for the last however long it's been, because
2 hours.
time doesn't exist. Time doesn't exist in here, despite the clock on the wall. That clock has not moved. If you've been watching this, that clock in our background has not moved 1 inch. So we asked for fan theories and comments, and we got a few this time. So shout out to the following people: Neosha Roma from Fred's. See, Fred's severed Fred's. It's big, man. She said, we will learn that Helena is somehow tied into the resistance and or has been working against Lumin in some capacity. Well, we didn't think of that one.
no, I didn't think about that.
I mean, compelling theory, but I think Helena's too whipped. Like by
Yeah.
by like she wants her daddy's approval way too much.
Okay. And then our friends over at Cage Fighting Pod, Innie Mark is going to try and escape with a pregnant Heliar, whilst Alti Mark and Helena send waves of gangs to stop them. Like the Warriors, but in an office.
I mean, they have
Oh,
been plot twists that we didn't predict at all this season, so maybe.
I like the raid crossed with Severance. I think it could work well on the floors.
yeah.
I mean, we had a bloody action scene in the finale for someone who calls himself Sausage Daddy sent us this message when we said, "Where do you think season three's going?" And he said, "Downhill. The remaining Innies maybe side with Lumin in an effort to stay alive," which I could actually see being a good plot twist there.
That's all
They
know.
have to do what they need. They have to agree with Lumin at some point because they'll die if they leave the floor. So no matter, so although they've ruined Cold Harbor and killed Drummond, they still need to obey some kind of rules there.
Well, no, they don't have to leave the floor. They can't leave the floor.
But how are they going to get the food tokens if they're fired?
I mean, the vending machine looks still quite fully stocked.
What if they stop stocking it? What if there's a hunger strike and a hostage situation going on?
They'll eat milkshake.
Oh dear. That show. Okay, well that got dark very quickly.
Severance Season 3, brought to you by cannibalism.
Well, refiners, it looks like we've completed the Cold Harbor file, and that is our final episode of Severance Season 2. For our outers, it's going to be a miserable existence for the next year or so as we wait for Severance Season 3. But the good news for us refiners is it's going to be like we never left. I'd like to thank my fellow refiners for this spin-off pod. Firstly, David L. Where is Dave? David has not turned up for work again.
I mean, this is kind of fitting, like it mirrors the season because we started off with 4 and now we end with 3. David is on a train.
Marie S., where can people find you on the Lumonspehere?
You can find my Audi underneath the handle Life on Mars. That is TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram.
Jose L., where can people find you?
My Instagram is at Jose Lopez Photos for my portrait work, and my wedding photos are on jlopezphotos.com. No photos of Jennifer Lopez's weddings or anyone else's like that. Wait.
Ben Affleck.
Never mind.
Jennifer Khan.
Ben Affleck. There we go.
And you can find me at Needed Roads on Twitter, Neil Gregory78 on Threads and Instagram, and NeilG78 on Blue Sky. We'll see you next time at the Equator.